Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into women's wrestling at the college level. My guest today is Fred Santaite. He is the head women's wrestling coach at Felician University, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so usually I start my guests, Fred, where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Sure. I went to college up in Boston at Boston University.
Oh.
Spent about 5 years up there, and then a lot of my teammates actually stayed up there. I wound up coming back to New Jersey, but
That's fine.
it was a good experience up there.
So now let's just go back in time before we get started into what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, when did it all begin for you? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did you start thinking about going to college?
Well, definitely probably around like 8th grade to freshman year.
Okay.
It was always a push from my parents. Like my parents, they actually didn't go to college.
Okay.
My dad started a business right out of high school, but it was always a push for us to go to college. I had older siblings. My brother was a senior when I was a freshman in high school, so he obviously got to experience college first, and he actually went for wrestling as well. And then an older sister, and then me. So like we've had like a few years before where we were thinking about colleges because my brother went through it and stuff like that. So it was always kind of like on the radar.
And then Boston College, did you get recruited for anything, or did you just go there just to go? Oh, Boston University.
Yeah, so there are two schools up there, and BC actually doesn't have wrestling, but we're a little bit of rivals, so
okay.
we don't want to get them mixed up a little bit. But
got it.
yeah, the Terriers up there. I did get a full scholarship to attend Boston University up there.
So were they the only schools that recruited you?
No, there were from junior year on. We were talking to schools. My dad kind of handled a lot of the original discussions, and then we would talk about the schools that would go on visits, and we had people from across the country kind of come out, local colleges. So kind of tried to keep the doors open a little bit for what was out there, what the opportunities were like. When I was going to college, it was always looking into academics as well as the athletics, right? So yeah, I was going to college to wrestle, but wanted to make sure I got a good education afterwards. That was just my plan after, right? It wasn't exactly staying in wrestling at the world and Olympic circuits. It was, okay, we're going to go into the business world.
Right.
So that's factored into some of my decision making when I was going to college.
So now you're at Boston University. What's the school like?
I mean, I'm not a big city person, but it's in the middle of the city in Boston, but has a very different feel, the campus. It's not exactly like a New York City type of campus, right? It's like a 2-mile stretch with the Commonwealth Ave, and schools on that kind of block. So a lot to do in the surrounding area. Obviously, you have the city. Big hockey town, right? That's kind of what they're known for. They actually didn't have football at BU. But it was a great experience. Met some great people up there. The teammates, like we're still really close now. Still talk to my coaches that were up there. So it was a great experience that I had up there.
So now you graduate from BU. How does one go from graduating there to becoming the head wrestling women's coach at Felician University?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, women's wrestling wasn't what it is now, right? Obviously, there's always women's wrestling, but not so much at the collegiate level and all that. But my college career ended a little bit differently than I originally had planned and all. But after I graduated, I still always had a passion for wrestling, and I've been doing it since 3rd, 4th grade.
Wow.
And I knew that I wanted to go into coaching. So I actually was an assistant coach at my high school the first year that I got out, and that's kind of how I got like my roots into coaching. It was at the high school level, but you learn scheduling and kind of matchmaking and things like that, right? A lot of other things that go into it besides wrestling.
Sure.
And then I actually opened up a wrestling club for a while. Did that for about 5 years or so, and then stopped that. It was a little bit more time consuming than just coaching, so got back into coaching. At the high school level, helped start up a women's wrestling team in high school. And then this opportunity kind of came about where women's wrestling is just getting a lot bigger, right? A lot more publicity around it. A lot of schools you could see are all of a sudden starting to add women's wrestling programs across the country. And when it opened up, the chance to like build something from scratch has always been kind of a passion for mine. I got out of corporate and started my own restoration company. And so when this opportunity came about, it was almost like a no-brainer for me to try to take it, because it's kind of putting your own stamp on it and making something that's not there.
Yeah.
And that always has an intrigue in me. Plus, I love wrestling, right? I was always involved in coaching still. So applied for the position, spoke with the athletic director, and then now we're here.
So you're at Felician University. Give me a sense of how women's wrestling, how you find the people that come to the school there.
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many different tools out there now. When I was getting recruited, it was a little bit different, I would say, with just the amount of like websites and marketing materials that are out there. I don't even think Flow Wrestling was a thing yet, right, when I was younger. So you have a lot of recruiting websites that you go to. You have a lot of tournament results and publicity through Flow that give you access to tournaments and videos and things like that to watch the wrestlers, right? Mm-hmm. And then always some of the best is just going to the tournaments, right? Going to some of those higher level tournaments, local tournaments, interacting with the wrestlers, watching their personalities, right? Because it's a lot more than just wrestling talent that we look for, right? And it's hard to gauge that by just a phone conversation. So always being able to meet them in person and seeing how they interact definitely goes into the recruiting process a lot.
So now, what's the type of woman that comes out for the wrestling team?
I feel like our situation is a little bit unique, right? It's a new program. There's not an already established culture, and there's not a team there yet, right? They're basically all coming in starting this year. So we look for building the team the right way with a strong foundation, and looking for wrestlers that ultimately want to be there, right? They have a passion just for wrestling. You see them wrestling in the summertime, going to tournaments, trying to get better, asking questions, even just in the process, right? How do I get better? This is what I'm looking to do. We love that, right? Girls that just want to be there and want to get better, because you could teach them a lot, right? But if they don't want to be there, they're not going to learn. The work ethic, right? Are they putting the time in? Do they belong to clubs? Are they looking to get better in the specific sport of wrestling? That's a lot of what we look for, right? A lot of those, what I call like the intangible skills, the skills besides your results on the wrestling mat. Like obviously that factors into it,
Sure.
But I would say a lot of it is like those difference makers, because we want to build that program the right way, right? Where people want to be there, and like wherever we start doesn't mean it's going to be where we end, right? Because they're going to work hard, we're going to progress every year, and that's what it's all about, right? Progressing forward.
So now, give me a sense of what is entailed for the student athlete that comes to school there. When did they begin? When does the season start? What type of schools do you play against? How does it end? Give me a whole year's worth of when the student gets there. Did they get there in August? Did they get there in September? When did they get there?
I mean, we're kind of starting everything right now, right? We had a couple of wrestlers on site already, but this is our first real year. Schedule goes from, the season technically starts first or second week in October. The national tournament is the first week in March, right? So that's technically like your in-season time for wrestling. But we do a lot of strength and conditioning. They're working with our strength coach when they get on site, and that usually starts in like mid to late August, right, when they all report to school. And they're a part of that, and then we're really in season in the wrestling room starting in October.
And so how many matches do they go through? Is it 2,
so
10, 50?
So this year, I mean, is the first schedule that we've had, right? And there's so many schools and tournaments that are in the local area. So in the Northeast, that's mainly where our schedule is. We're not really traveling out west as of yet. Doesn't mean in the future we won't be, but we're a little bit more locally focused right now. And it's about a competition a week, right? We're in at least one open tournament a month. and then followed by just different dual meets. Whether it's a single dual meet, we try to make it so it's a little bit more worthwhile with our traveling. So it's either a tri meet or a quad meet that we'll have on a Friday or Saturday. But that's for the most part. We have a couple of dual meets scheduled like in the middle of the week, but all of our competitions are on the weekends.
So now, how many girls do you get on the team? Do you have a lot? Do you have a little?
Yeah, so our first year, I mean, we have 14 wrestlers on the team, which we're pretty excited about, right? Like just last year, we didn't have anything, right? So that's a constant building and recruiting process, right? Year in, year out. But yeah, we're excited about the 14 wrestlers that we have there, and when we all report to school, we'll see where everybody matches up, and see how their weight classes go.
And how does it work at the college level? Are the rules the same between men's wrestling and women's wrestling? Give me a sense of how it works.
So they are different, actually, and really the only reason why they're different is because the style is different. So in men's wrestling, they're still in folk style in college. In women's wrestling, it moves to freestyle in college, which I think is a lot better, right? It's more beneficial because that's what you do on the international circuits, freestyle and Greco-Roman. So now the women wrestlers at the collegiate level are constantly working in the same style that they would when they go to the U.S. Open and wrestle in Worlds or in the Olympics right now, right? So they're constantly getting more training in the same style, whereas the men, you're usually going to only do freestyle then in the summertime after your folk style regular season ends. And freestyle, it's different exposures, right? It is a different, obviously, style of wrestling, but it's a little bit, I would say, a little bit more fast-paced than folk style, and quick exposure rules.
And now, is it the same type of weight classes and things like that?
So high school and college are not the same weight classes, and they just changed actually the college women weight classes. They changed from last year already. They bumped them up 1 or 2 pounds a little bit, so relatively similar, but it's different. And I think they tried to do that to match a little bit closer to what the international weight classes are, trying to make that transition a lot easier for the wrestlers, right? So they're not kind of in between a college weight class from what the international weight classes are, and then having to choose up or down. So yeah, the weight classes are different in high school, and I think across a couple of the states they're different.
So now, when they get to college, what type of schools do they play against? You said it's relatively new, so is there a lot of schools in this area that have women's wrestling, or?
Yeah, I mean, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, there's some of like the biggest wrestling states across the country, right?
So name some of the universities that you'll be playing against.
Yeah, so you have Delaware Valley College, you have East Stroudsburg right around here, you have NJCU, which is another program, Division III program actually in New Jersey. Centenary starting a program up there in New Jersey. You have Elmira, Yersinia, Cedar Crest, a decent amount of programs.
And you said that there's 14 girls. How many do you usually get at the college level? Do all the schools just have 14 girls?
No. So there's 10 weight classes to fill out a full lineup, and then they actually just changed it for Division I. It's not changed for Division II or III. They did cut the roster size to just 30, but you'll have teams that have 30 to 40 wrestlers on it. I would say, I mean, ideally you want at least 2 per weight class, right? You never know what happens. Maybe medically redshirting, injuries, just redshirting in general, right? They need a little bit of an extra buffer year. But yeah, like ideally, hopefully by next year, we're around like that 25, 30 mark, which would be awesome for our program. But yeah, the 10's the minimum to fill out a lineup.
Gotcha. Okay. So now, into the university, give me a sense of what Felician University is about. Where is it located? What's the atmosphere there? When a student gets there, what are they looking at?
Yeah, so we're a Franciscan university, right? We are a Catholic school. It's a small campus, right? It's a small, tight-knit, community-feel campus. 75% of the people that live on campus and dorm are actually athletes, right? So you're surrounded, obviously it's always the people that you surround yourself with, right? But you're surrounded by people that are athletes going through the same thing, academic and athletically, right? And competing and things like that. So it's nice because you don't sometimes get lost in a lot of the extracurriculars that go on at college campuses, right? But we're also 10 miles from New York City, right? So you could walk to the train station. It's a mile away. 20-minute train ride over to New York City. You have Hoboken, which has a New York recruiting center right there, easily accessible by train station. You have the main strip in town, which has like just different food and bar restaurants to eat at, a mile away that you can walk to. So besides being like on a smaller campus, that's you're not going to get involved with kind of too much extracurriculars. If you did need a day to kind of just refresh a little bit, there's so much to do nearby.
So now, school-wise, universities cost a lot of money. What does Felician do when a student is maybe financially needed or is just looking to get what they can get at the college level?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been involved with too many different admissions with college programs, right? But I know from Felician, they help out a lot from the financial aid standpoint and have a lot of different programs in place that do help people that are requiring a little bit more support in that regard, right? We also are a Division II program, meaning that we can offer athletic scholarships on top of any academic and financial aid you might qualify for. Stack it on with an athletic scholarship, right, to help with those financial costs a little bit more. So there's a lot of different luxuries that you look into through the admissions and see what you do qualify for, but they are very supportive in that regard.
And do you help in any way as well?
Always supporting in the process, right? Essentially, wherever the numbers come in, you can only do so much, right? But talking to admissions. Admissions is friendly with all the athletic side of things, right? Because we're constantly looking to build over at Felician, right, and grow enrollment. That's like a big push that they have. So we work hand in hand. All the offices work pretty well together. And
what's the academics that's needed there? Does a student need to be an A student, a C student, just good? It
actually, they're very forthcoming with everybody that does want to apply, right? Not everybody gets in, but they have a lot of different programs in place. Again, like if your GPA is a little bit lower, like you're in the 2s or under, like they have a different program that you might be able to qualify for, right? That they give you a little bit more support to make sure you can handle like the coursework and things like that, and then you switch into like the normal program, right? They're most known for nursing, right? They have a very good nursing program. That's obviously a little bit harder to get into, right, with the qualifications, GPA, and SAT scores that you need. But overall, it is a little program specific, but they will help you and support you with your academics and trying to get you into school if they can.
Right. So we've been coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students that are watching? What advice do you want to give them that want to come to Felician University and wrestle there?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing right now is that, I mean, we're a new program, and you don't always get the opportunity to become a part of something like that, right? There's nothing that's written in the history books yet, right? So you come to Felician, you could be the first All-American, the first national champ, the first regional qualifier, first one to win a dual meet, the first one to win an open tournament, right? Like, there's nothing there yet. So you're basically having the opportunity to write your name into the history books, not only for Felician, but women's wrestling in general, right? It's still relatively new. So, I mean, that's a huge opportunity. But also, it's about, I love wrestling, right? And like, I grew up with some of, I would say, some of the best coaches, right? Maybe a little bit biased, but I love to give that forward, right? And I'm there to support your athletes, right? Not even only from a wrestling standpoint, but we're looking to make you better people, right? Help you with academics, help you with your athletic career. Wherever you're looking to go, I'm here to support you in that journey, right? And it's not just about being a good wrestler. So it's a lot more than that. So that's really what I would say, right? Like being a part of our program here, being a part of being able to be with history, and then, depending on kind of what you're looking for at Felician, they offer a lot, right? And there's a lot in the nearby area for internships to get, right? We have a lot of partnerships. We're right next to the city, like I said, so to get a good business degree or get with a financial company, right? There's so much opportunity. So we're really small, but there's so much opportunity there.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.